I'm here today to talk about something a little bit different, and that's something that I think has slipped below the headlines. An issue that, despite threats by the 6th most visited website on the internet, Wikipedia, the threats to shut down over, has been largely ignored by the media. Today, I'm here to talk about the Stop Online Piracy Act, a piece of legislation currently before the House of Representatives in the United States government. Now, when I first heard about it, I really wasn't sure what to think. Obviously, with Wikipedia, it's immense resources that have helped me through so many papers. Going dark in protest of it, I was initially thrown to be against it, but I wasn't sure what to think. Because the Stop Online Piracy Act was a piece of legislation that did a lot of things. It had potential to help people protect their property, to help rights holders kind of secure their investment, the work that they had put into things. But it also had potential to do great harm to the internet. So I wasn't sure what to think. To be honest, I hadn't heard of the four-way test prior to learning about this contest. But the more I looked at it, the more I thought about it, I realized that it was a very, very effective way to gauge what to think of this legislation. So I started to look at SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, and I said, was it the truth? Was it fair to all involved? Would it build goodwill? Would it build better friendships? Would it be beneficial to everyone? And I started to form an opinion. Now, first I wanted to look at the truth. Was it what it said it was? Would it stop online piracy? And what I started to realize was that, as I read more, maybe it wouldn't. Because what the legislation would do would, rather than going after those who steal, going after those who download music illegally, who download content illegally and do steal, because there's no other word for it. Rather than doing that, what SOPA did was allow rights holders, a very small group, Hollywood and a handful of corporations that own the vast majority of the content on the internet, to go after not those people who are stealing, but those who are indirectly supporting them through their support of everything. Websites like YouTube, like Wikipedia, that have published huge amounts of content simply by having one user post a link content that had been gained illegally, would be unable to function. Giant resources that have developed, that have been, if I do say so myself, largely the best product of the internet, the collaboration, the infrastructure of the internet that has allowed us to share, to create so much, would no longer be able to exist because it could be targeted directly rather than those stealing. So what I realized was that perhaps SOPA wasn't the truth. It wasn't stopping online piracy, it was retribution. And maybe it wasn't the truth, but that wasn't enough for me to make the decision off the bat that it was necessarily unethical. Really what I started to see is that I needed to look at the whole test. So I looked at whether it was fair. If it was fair to everyone involved, both the rights holders, the content producers, the people who have made this huge amount of content that has made the internet possible, and the people who consume it. The people who use Wikipedia, be it to post information, to share and learn, or to finish an English essay at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I started to look at that, again, it seemed SOPA wasn't quite fair. It definitely served to help the people who hold rights to information, the people who had created a lot of this content, but perhaps not even to them. It was to the people who owned the content. The handful of companies, the Recording Industry Association of America, a handful of Hollywood firms, maybe it was fair to them. They could go after anything that would cut their bottom line a little bit, but it wasn't fair to everyone. The millions upon millions of internet users who have collaborated to create so much more. The entire infrastructure of the internet, Wikipedia, is going offline at midnight tonight to protest SOPA. Wikipedia couldn't exist under SOPA. So perhaps it wasn't fair to all involved. To a small fraction, certainly, but that didn't justify it. My opinion started to solidify. I wasn't really in favor of SOPA at this point, but I figured I would look at the rest of the test because it had been so effective in helping me think this through thoroughly rather than a quick judgment. So I thought about whether it would build goodwill and better friendships, as Rotary suggested, I think. And what I began to realize was that I didn't think it would, because goodwill can't come from retribution, and that's what SOPA did. SOPA allowed rights holders to go directly after websites that had linked to others. That didn't build goodwill, that built retribution. And I didn't think that was anything that really was going in the right direction. And better friendships? Suspending due process in favor of copyright law didn't seem like the way to go there either. So my opinion was starting to solidify. But when I looked at the end of it, when I looked at whether SOPA would ultimately be beneficial to everyone, I knew what I had decided. SOPA couldn't be beneficial to everyone. To destroy the basic infrastructure that makes the internet what it is, to make it impossible for users to have a community, a discussion, and a discourse on the events of today, on what's happening today, wouldn't be possible if a handful of corporations could shut it down because they felt their rights had been violated, with due process suspended. So, no, I couldn't, under the four-way test, view SOPA as ethical. Are there parts of it that were? Certainly. But under the test, I was able to form a decision to realize that ultimately, as much as the rights of one group have to be balanced with those of the other, SOPA couldn't do that. Thank you.